Cool. Thanks, Tori. Okay, so I am going to be talking about all the small solutions. So a little bit of context on that. Back in, I think it was January, February, I moved over from Defend to Secure. And in that process, I identified a number of dormant issues and issues that needed to be open in light of research findings, customer pain points, things like that, that I came across as part of that onboarding process. So there were a lot of small solutions that came out of that. At the same time, we, in static analysis, which is the group that I'm in and under Secure, we had a newer product manager who is getting our roadmap in place. And so we are now focused on more larger efforts. So that's coming very soon. But for this, we'll just be talking about the small improvements that we've been making over the last couple of months. So Secure is, just a review on the dev side of DevOps. So it's preventing bad actors from accessing loopholes in code by identifying potential vulnerabilities before they're pushed to production. And this is the amazing team that I work with in static analysis. So where does Secure live? It lives in many places. There's some not even pointed to here. There's it lives in the pipelines page because they're jobs that run. They live in the merge request that comes from that pipeline run. And then there is a dedicated security and compliance section of the nav as well. So within there, we have a security dashboard, vulnerability list, dependency list, and so forth, in addition to a configuration page where you can look at all of your scanner types across SAST, DAST, container scanning, dependency scanning, all of those things, license compliance. But for the purpose of this showcase, we'll be looking at the merge request as well as the project security dashboard and the configuration page. There's also a group level security dashboard and an instance level security dashboard, as well as the YAML file, which holds the configuration that obviously lives in the repository. Okay, so just a quick overview. So security scans run as jobs in the pipeline, and then the results, which are potential vulnerabilities, are displayed in the MR and as also on the security dashboard. So there's kind of two personas at play here, depending on the company size. Larger companies will have developers looking at the MR when they're trying to push code. They'll look at the findings that came from the jobs that ran in the pipeline. The security dashboard will have more security focused developers or security analysts looking into those potential vulnerabilities and determining whether they are true positives and how to remediate them. So going into that a little bit further, so we have SAST scans that run as jobs in the pipelines. I've highlighted two of the ones in view here from this screenshot. These are different analyzers that run as part of SAST. Right now we have 13 analyzers, and there could be more to come as well. So the first problem to solve that I identified was once those jobs run and then the scan results show up in the security widget in the MR. It's not really a separate widget, but it's the security area of the MR. Our wonderful user researcher, Tali, did a study back in late 2019 that revealed that some users were confused why the MR is able to be merged if the security jobs found potential vulnerabilities. So many users aren't aware that they can enable something called security approvals, which require approval from a designated member of their team if the MR would introduce certain vulnerabilities or a license compliance violation. So until we can look at more holistic explorations for improving feature awareness, we went for an MVC that was easy to implement and wasn't going to break anything. So the solution that we came up with was adding an alert to the bottom of the security area in the MR. This will hopefully bring more awareness to the security approval functionality, as well as instructions on how to enable security approvals. So we hope that this MVC will solve the problem of not understanding how the MR can be merged if security vulnerabilities were found, and how to prevent this from happening if the user's organization has a stricter security paradigm. Okay, and then problem to solve number 2. So as part of solutioning for the first problem, one of our PMs noted how users really interact with this MR page. So rather than going top to bottom, digging into every potential problem, they quickly skim it, see some green and black icons, other loading indicators, and think they're okay without necessarily drilling into the results, keeping in mind that their primary goal here, their primary task, is getting their code merged. And so some of these things can seem like roadblocks along the way. But if it's important enough, we definitely want to call attention to that and encourage them to take note and to look into it further. So we wondered if we could somehow draw more attention to the security widget findings without necessarily implying priority over other findings identified from other jobs in the pipeline. So I've worked with some other UX designers cross stage to try to find a happy medium between how can we draw attention to this, but then I don't want to necessarily say that this is more important than the other things without understanding what those other things are and kind of the priority holistically. So the small solution we came up with for this is we decided that bringing the number of critical high and unknown severities, if there's any found, and then color coding them might help draw attention that an investigation is advised. And then the user would do this by clicking on View Full Report button to the right. So color can be a powerful motivator, and this is an example of why we want to preserve red and orange on pages where we have these type of use cases. So as it's noted in our pajamas documentation, orange indicates attention required, so a warning, pending, missing, or impeded progress, and then red indicates a problem, critical states, destructive actions, errors, fails, etc. Okay, and then problem to solve number 3. So now we've moved over to the security dashboard under security and compliance. The security dashboard shows vulnerability findings from all scanner types, SAST, DAST, etc. by default. But if some scanners are enabled and others aren't, we show the vulnerability findings from the enabled scanner type, but we currently have no way of telling the user that one or more of those scanner types have not been enabled. If they want to enable them, if there are some that are not enabled, how might we help them to enable it if that's what they want to do? So the small solution we came up with here was a warning alert in the table that will inform the user if they don't have one or more of the scanner types enabled, but they are set in the filter. So also this solution will be able to provide a link that gives them more information on how to enable it if they so choose. So the benefit of this solution is that it will be stored locally on a user's machine. So if dismissed, it won't show up again. We know that there are some use cases where users intentionally don't want some scanner types enabled for a project. So we don't want to have something persist more permanently and have them have something on the page that they have to then ignore all the time. So this is a great solution for informing them. And then once they say, yeah, we get it, then they don't have to see it again. Okay, and then problem to solve number 4 is empty states. So currently we have very vague empty states that don't really communicate why there's no content. So for example, the empty state shown here is in the tone of what the user can do and uses copy proposition as a value add for the feature. So it says monitor vulnerabilities in your code. The security dashboard displays the latest security report. You use it to find and fix vulnerabilities. However, if the user is expecting content here, they don't know what the problem is or why there's no content. Does this project not have the scanners enabled? Are there no vulnerabilities found? Something else? It's a bit ambiguous. So this is an ongoing project. We're looking at empty states across the project security dashboard, as well as the group and instance security dashboard. And the use cases are a little bit different. So it's very, very complex. So for example, in groups, you can have multiple projects, some of those projects may have some scans enabled and some not. And then with the instance security dashboard, the user manually adds projects into that view. And so again, you may have some scanners not turning up any vulnerabilities. You may have some scanners not enabled at all and some scanners enabled across projects. So we're looking at this very holistically, I guess, looking at what those empty states could be, how can we help the user to solve the problem if it's a problem. For example, if there's no vulnerabilities found and they're expecting vulnerabilities, there may be something going on there that they need to investigate, or maybe they thought that they had all of their scanners enabled for a particular project and they're not. And so we want to think very carefully about where we're sending them from each empty state. So where in the docs or where else in GitLab are we sending them so that they can take action. So for one example, the example that we came across earlier, monitor vulnerabilities in your code would soon become something like scanners not enabled with a direct link to see the scanner status, and more functionality soon to be released from that same page. I should mention that there's a lot of work that the secure designers, the secure and defend designers are doing to the security dashboard, the configuration page. So another strong benefit of these small solutions is they can kind of plug and play into future work that's currently being worked on, or future releases that are currently being worked on. And that's kind of an important thing, that we all be really, really transparent because of the overlap in the areas that we all share. And so a lot of these work with solutions that are coming in future milestone releases, but I didn't want to do anything that was going to overhaul everything altogether and change the experience for 2 milestones, when knowing 2 milestones in the future, it's going to be something different altogether. And then finally, I was looking at terms that we're using, and so there were 2 small wins here. So on the security dashboard, which is the screenshot on the top, and then the configuration page, which is the one on the bottom, we have some outdated terms. So I opened up some issues to propose getting these updated. So firstly, on the security dashboard, we have been using the term report type for what are more widely referred to across the industry as scanners or scanner types. So with the introduction of exportable security reports, which we now have on all of our dashboards, it was an easy decision to make the change to differentiate between a report and a scanner. So that'll be updating from report type to scanner type. And then on the configuration page, we've been using the verb configure for the process of setting up the scanners, as currently there is a manual configuration process for doing so. This won't always be, and there's work being done to make this less manual and bringing some of that configuration into the back end where the user can say, just switch a toggle or create an MR in order to get that scanner type template added to the project. So we're changing the word configure to enable to make room for the configuration of the scanner rules where we can use this word in a more literal context. So I think all of the groups are, or most of them anyways, I know for SAST, we're looking at being able to configure each scanner in the UI. And so we're gonna need that word configure for configuring the scanner, whereas it's currently being used now to basically mean enable. And that's all I have for today. Just wanted to call out special thanks to Taylor McCaslin, the Senior Product Manager for Secure, focused on SAST, for your awesome transparency, collaboration, and approachability, in addition to the Secure managers, devs, technical writers, designers, and researchers. This is becoming an Oscar speech, but mostly for my dog for keeping me company in quarantine.